Hello guys and welcome back to Big Brother. Now, do you remember when I was like, I'm gonna do these every 2 days? I'm gonna have like frequent updates just every other day, purely because I don't think there's gonna be much to talk about. Bloody hell, guys. Oh my goodness, everything is kicking off in this house. We've had someone being kicked out. We've got allegations of cheating, which we're going to talk about, and they're entirely unfounded in my opinion. And we've also got Lauren Simon in a hot tub wearing a mermaid's outfit, which was just the perfect way to cap off an entirely ludicrous episode of Big Brother. But either way, before we get in, if you are enjoying the series, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Join us on our journey as we talk through Big Brother season 24, I think we're on now. It's awesome, it's iconic, it's entertaining, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. So, without much further ado, let's get into our first talking point of the series, shall we? So, this episode saw the return of the infamous shopping task. Now, if you've never seen Celebrity Big Brother before and you don't know what a shopping task is, essentially, they have to do a bunch of random things with different rules. And if they follow all the rules and they do all the challenges correctly, then they get a luxury shopping budget. So you know in America how they just get groceries by default? Oh, not in the UK. In the UK, you have to earn the privilege to get nice things. Effectively, I'm fairly certain that it's something ridiculous like they will give you £50 per person per week if you win the luxury one. Whereas if it's the non-luxury one, it's something like £30. So it's not a lot for the whole week. Do you know what I mean? Like they are pushing these people to the limit. Not really. On the old series they used to, but not on this series. They're kind of nice on this one. But either way, it is really, really exciting to see the house decorated once again. I will give ITV their props, and they do a fantastic job of decorating the house and really making each thing feel unique in terms of look. In terms of tasks, they could be a little bit similar at times. It always tends to be Big Brother picks 2 or 3 people to be like the head honcho, sometimes 4, and then everybody else is like the underlings. It always happens. It's been the same for every single challenge that they've done, bar like 2 or 3. So it wasn't a surprise to see the exact same happen here, but this time it's pirate themed. And honestly, I kind of liked that everyone was kind of getting into the swing of things. Everyone was getting into the vibe. It was nice to see the house decorated like a pirate ship. The garden looks like the edge of a buccaneer looking out onto the ocean. It was cool. It was nice. It was a good vibe. And everybody, bar Mickey, seemed to really, really get into the vibe of things. Now, Big Brother obviously chose Jojo as the captain. Why wouldn't you? That's hysterical. And then Angelica and Donna were her first hands. I actually think that was a good shout. I think the issue I have with Big Brother picking the people is that they tend to pick the people who are in the limelight a lot. And therefore, the people who aren't in the limelight, they tend to just fall into the background. Like Daly, he was not in this episode. I do not remember him being in this episode. And apparently he's the 4th highest played person on this series. And we're not seeing anything from him. So can we like boot him out the house, please? Because he's boring as fuck. But anyway, it is what it is. We move on to talk about what I was going to say. And I am just waffling now because my brain is not quite catching up with how my mouth is moving. But Big Brother did choose the correct people for this challenge. Jojo, obviously, great at committing to the bit. But then Donna and Angelica, they're 2 people that we haven't really seen much from. So it was really nice to see them step into this role, really have fun with it, and just get some more screen time. Do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the screen time has been dedicated to Mickey Rourke. But fortunately, moving forward, without him in the house, as much as people might complain, oh, he was the only person making it interesting, I'm already starting to see cracks and splinters between people in the house. I'm starting to see different people get annoyed with other different people. It's all starting to kick off, and I am super excited to see how that all happens. So regardless of him being in the house or not, I'm excited to see what goes down. So we're gonna talk about the Chris, Jojo, Ella sitch, and I don't even think it needs to be a sitch personally. I think a lot of the people who are commenting on Chris and Jojo, I think a lot of it is coming from a place of not understanding platonic friendships between men and women. Now, as a man, I have a lot of platonic friendships with females, and whilst I might not do everything that they're doing, like the scratching of the back and the jumping on each other in bed, it's just playful behavior. It's nothing more than that. At the end of the day, she is not interested in him, and you can debate whether he's interested in her. I don't think he is. I think it's just a purely platonic friendship, and it is just something that I think our generation has embraced a lot more than people of different generations, and people are reading into it. But may I remind you that this exact same thing happened on the previous series of Big Brother with Ali. There was lots of discussions about whether she was really a lesbian, whether she was really this, whether she was really attracted to some of the men in the house. No, she's not. We probably shouldn't be debating whether their sexuality is genuine or not, or whether they're actually attracted to somebody else. We shouldn't be doing that. We should just be taking it at face value and being like, they've said they're friends at the end of the day. And that's just my personal opinion on it, because I can see traits in them that I have with my friends that are girls, and I can spot that and be like, that's just platonic behavior. It's just them fucking about and having fun at the end of the day. And it is interesting to see online that difference in sort of opinion, I guess. And it does expose that a lot of people just don't have close friends of the opposite sex. And that's fair and valid, but some people do, and this is how they behave with them, because it's just fun. They're just fucking around. It's just entertaining for them at the end of the day. But this brings in Ella, because a lot of people have been like, oh, Ella and Jojo have got their scripts mixed up. Ella's the one that's meant to be in the sort of like showmance with Chris. I actually think Ella went into the house believing that she would have a showmance with Chris. And now she's pissed off with Chris because he's got no interest in her and he's hanging out with his bestie Jojo all day. And Ella, she seems quite isolated in the house. In fact, this was the first episode that we really got to see her. And I'm going to leave aside the whole Mickey segment, because I feel like a lot of her frustration might have stemmed from that. But from what I saw, there was a very, very telling conversation in the bathroom near the start of the episode where she said that she thought she would have bonded with Chris more. And then she sort of course corrected and went, but I don't find him hot though. And it just felt like, you know, those nice guys on the internet that are always like, you're so hot. Sorry, I have a boyfriend. You are ugly. That was the energy that it was giving. The energy that she was giving was like, oh, before I came in here, I thought I'd really get on with him. But like, he's not that hot, because obviously he's paid no attention to her. So she's kind of compensating for that. That's what it's feeling like. I don't feel like Ella, I'm seeing the real her. And actually, I feel like that could be a detriment to her, because so far, again, pushing the Mickey stuff to one side, because we will talk about that in a second, I don't find her particularly likable. And that's an issue in a house where the majority of people are likable, because it means that she's in the same group as like Daly and Trisha, and the fact that like I don't really rate them. They're not actually that interesting. And I mean, to be fair, Trisha is very interesting. It's just sometimes she pisses me off. But I would still like to keep her in the house because I feel like she mixes stuff up. So maybe I'll just put her in the group with Daly. And yeah. But either way, very interesting dynamic between those three. I think Chris and Jojo are completely platonic, but I think Ella wanted something more than platonic with Chris, and she's disappointed and pissed off that that didn't happen. So, the Mickey Rourke situation was a very, very delicate situation, and it was disappointing because not only was the entire thing blown massively out of proportion, but it also came across as just difficult to watch. Do you know what I mean? Like, when the teaser dropped and I'd heard he'd been kicked out, I was sitting there and I was like, oh my god, like, what has happened? I'm hearing he's using threatening language. And I watched the clip and I was like, if I'm being honest, I don't feel like that instance was the instance that kicked him out. I think it was an accumulation of things. And I think a lot of people think that that was the reason he was kicked out. It wasn't. You've got to remember, he's already been given a formal warning by Big Brother for use of foul language and threatening behaviour, which already happened earlier on in this week. That is fair game. He shouldn't have been removed for that, okay? Because at the end of the day, you get one warning and a telling off, and then you get removed. And this was the second strike. 2 strikes, you're out. That's it. Done. But this moment was stemming from the fact that Trisha said something along the lines of like, there's a rat among us. And Chris stepped out of line and eyeballed Mickey. And there was... There's conflicting feelings from me from this. Half of me feels like Chris being like, oh, I was just in character, mate. I was just in character. Yeah, okay, half of me does believe that. But then when you stood back in line and you looked at Jack and went, back me up, it made me feel like you were doing it on purpose. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But then Mickey standing out of line and getting up in Chris's face, threatening to drop him, calling him every swear word under the sun. Not exactly a good display of behaviour. At your big age of 76, do you not think that that's inappropriate behaviour? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not ideal. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that whole situation escalated very quickly. Chris is not innocent in this whole thing because he was also goading Mickey in the conversation, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's just classic sort of like riling up behaviour. And I think everybody has been in that situation, or most people have been in that situation and have gotten into a point where this person's being held back and you're just kind of like throwing little digs in to rile them up a little bit more. But I don't know, I just felt like Mickey did not deal with that situation well. Then he got called into the diary room. Big Brother was like, that was not okay. And he was very apologetic. He said it was just banter. And I was like, none of that screamed banter to me. Not a single moment of that screamed banter to me. And I think it was only when you were called out as being wrong that you went, let me say it's banter. Because that's the classic excuse, isn't it? When something doesn't come across in the way that you wanted it to. Oh, it was just banter. It's just banter. So then he comes out, he apologises to Chris. And this is when Ella starts talking about a comment that was made earlier on in the episode. Now, I didn't catch this comment. I must have flicked over to the channel at the wrong moment, or I don't know, I must have just missed it. But I went back and I rewatched it, and he made a inappropriate comment to her. She said something along the lines of like, come with me, and he went, come in you. And it's just a bit gross. Again, at the age of 76, I don't expect you to do that. And you can make arguments of like, oh, he's just an older generation. No, I wouldn't expect my granddad to do that. So why am I expecting Mickey Rourke to do that? No, absolutely not. Hold him accountable. And Ella went to the diary room, and there were other people who were clearly also not distressed, but uncomfortable by the comment that he made. It's one thing to make a sexual comment when they're in on the joke, but it's another thing to just make it and make them feel uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? Like, there have been times when I've made sexual jokes, I've made innuendos, but it's with people that know, love, care for me, and therefore we've got that banter. But I don't think you have that banter with Ella, mate. I don't think you do. In fact, I've never even seen you speak to her. And the first time I do see you have a conversation with her, this is what happens. Not exactly the best vibe. So, unfortunately, he was removed from the house. I think Ella sort of was like, I'm feeling very uncomfortable. A lot of the women in the house were also feeling particularly uncomfortable, especially days after he essentially said that he was going to do something to Jojo. I don't want to say the words just in case TOS on YouTube is like, no, we don't allow that word on our platform. But you get what I mean. It's uncomfortable. It felt convenient, if I'm being 100% honest. It felt like Mickey Rourke was expecting to be evicted and went, let me just fuck shit up today and hopefully get kicked out. I don't think he wanted to stay in. I just felt it was a bit convenient. If it had come maybe a day or two later, maybe I wouldn't have felt it was so convenient. But for like literally the day after the first eviction, for him to be kicked out, felt far too convenient for it to have just been a happy coincidence. So there was a treasure chest task, and essentially Trisha and Danny were asked to give honest answers based on different criteria. Danny apparently picks his nose. That was a bad habit that Trisha called out. Trisha said that Danny and Big Brother were the loudest, and Big Brother was like, "You can't say me." And she was like, "Oh." And then Danny was like, "The loudest laugh goes to Donna because she sounds like," what did he say? I can't remember exactly what he said, but he compared it to like a howling hyena or something, and it was quite funny. Then Trisha said that Mickey has no manners and that Mickey's behaviour is quite challenging. And then finally, this is something that I'm interested to see how this develops, because Danny and Trisha kind of called out Patsy, and they had a little bit of a dig at her for being potentially a little bit two-faced and playing a game. I don't think Patsy's playing a game. I think they misunderstood the conversation that she had with Mickey about, oh, we can be friends now, but obviously behind his back being like, I'm uncomfortable with his behaviour, etc., etc. Both things can be true at once. Obviously, he went up and apologised to her about the comments about the cooking, and that's why she said, oh, okay, we can be friends now because you've apologised to me. But you can still be friendly with someone, but still hold them accountable and feel uncomfortable with their behaviour, especially after today, do you know what I mean? So I felt like that wasn't warranted, but I feel like Patsy's going to hold this grudge and it's all going to start escalating this week. I feel like this week is going to get very entertaining, very juicy, and I am excited to see how this goes. I am really, really excited because there are cracks starting to happen. Ella's starting to crack, Chris is starting to crack, Trisha, Patsy, that whole thing's starting to kick off. I am genuinely interested to see what's going to go down this week because, oh, it's going to be a good one. So the final thing I wanted to talk about was basically the kind of things that they were doing during the day. They were having to keep an eye out for enemy ships and then fire a cannon. I was like, okay, cool. And then this was the coolest moment of the entire episode because I was like, wow, they really did put some effort into like committing to the bit here. But they had like these inflatable tentacles come up from like behind the studio, like over the garden. And I was like, this is so cool. This is such a unique way to like entertain the celebrities. And I was like, yeah, this is fun, because even I was sitting there going, wow, this is actually quite cool. And then the last thing was Lauren Simon turns up decked out in a mermaid's outfit in the hot tub and goes, guys, you can curse the captain and the first hands and get a feast for yourself. And they were like, absolutely, we're cursing them. So the first mate and the first mate and the captain, they had to sleep with the fishes, which was sleeping in a bedroom with fish hanging up. That was gross and disgusting, I have to be honest. That was actually just ew. That was not fun. But obviously it was a trap. Obviously she was obviously a siren, come on. But it was just nice to have Lauren Simon. Now, a lot of people are like, outside contact. I don't know. I think if it's strictly game talk and there's no talk about the outside world, then I don't mind it so much. It's no different to like AJ Adudu coming into the garden and delivering some news. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't see that as outside contact. I see outside contact as knowledge of the outside world. As long as it's kept secret, I don't mind if certain moments like this happen, because at the end of the day, especially with celebrities, I don't think it matters as much. I think it matters so much more with the civilians, because that's the true social experiment. I don't think the celebrities one is as much of a social experiment as it is entertainment. So anyway, that is pretty much all we've got time for today. Let's head on to some funny quotes and moments. I only had one funny quote and moment of the entire episode, and that's because the majority of this episode was spent drama. Oh my god, there was so much drama in this episode. But the funniest moment was when Angelica was on the phone to Danny and was going, we want one of everything, we want coffee. And he said the lines, give them 4 scoops of coffee so they shit themselves. Hysterical. Genuinely one of the funniest lines of the entire episode. It was brilliant. It was incredible. So that is all we've got time for today. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Do all that YouTube stuff that you guys do so well, and I will see you guys later. Make sure to keep on ranting. Bye now. See ya.